What do you drink?
Not tea.
Grab a frosty mug and get ready to crack open the vault on the top 16 popular beers that we don't see around anymore. Whether big-name brands, smaller craft labels, or a beer named after a president's brother, it's time to raise a glass to the forgotten brews that once filled the fridges of stores and bars all across the nation.
Beer, 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 beer.
Meister Brau.
It was the greatest beer in all the world.
Once upon a time in Illinois, there existed a beer that held the true spirit of Chicago within its frothy depths, the legendary Meister Brau. This Chicago-born brew kicked off its brewing legacy in 1891 and proudly flowed through the taps until the early 70s, leaving behind a legacy as rich as the city skyline. Back in the day, Meister Brau wasn't shy about its Chicago pride. It proudly sponsored the heavyweights of the sports scene, claiming its spot as the official beer of the White Sox, Blackhawks, and the legendary Da Bears. If you wanted a taste of Chicago sports culture, Meister Brau was your ticket to the game day experience. However, while Meister Brau reigned supreme within the confines of the Windy City, its appeal didn't quite stretch beyond those borders. Despite its local fame, this brew failed to capture the hearts of beer enthusiasts outside Chicago's reach. Business slowed down in the 70s, and Meister Brau was eventually sold to Milwaukee's own Miller Brewing Company. Miller decided to give Meister Brau a makeover. The recipe got a good old shake-up, and voila! Out emerged a revamped creation, the iconic Miller Lite. Yep, that's right. The beer that sparked the era of light beers owes its origins to the brew that once symbolized the essence of Chicago sports culture.
Yeah, I'll have a beer.
Anyone else want another?
Yeah, why not?
Pete's Wicked Ale.
No steam, no beer.
This is a brew that once rocked the beer scene, but eventually found itself drowning in the sea of changing tastes. The year was 1986, and a dynamic duo named Pete Slosberg and Mark Bronder kicked off the beer extravaganza known as Pete's Brewing Company. The star of their frothy show? None other than Pete's Wicked Ale, an American brown ale. Now, rewind to 1979 in a humble kitchen in Belmont, California, where Slosberg's brewing adventure began. Armed with a 5-gallon container, a hefty kettle, and a trusty garbage can, he embarked on a brewing journey. Originally dreaming of crafting his own wine, Slosberg's impatience with the slow fermentation process led him to switch gears and dive into the world of beer. Fast forward to 1986, after 7 years of recipe wrangling, Slosberg unleashed Pete's Wicked Ale upon the world. The inaugural 200 cases hit the shelves in December, priced between $5 and $6 per 6-pack, and vanished quicker than a cold brew on a hot day. By 2004, Pete's Brewing Company was the 42nd largest in America for sales by volume. But you guessed it, all good things must come to an end. Focused exclusively on brown ale, they found themselves caught in the undertow of changing tastes. As the craft beer scene evolved, Pete's Wicked Ale faced its curtain call, bowing out of the beer stage in 2011.
I will remember you.
Falstaff.
What? You think a first-class girl can't drink?
Once upon a beer-filled time, the Falstaff Brewing Corporation, based in the beer haven of St. Louis, Missouri, was the stuff of brewing legend. Born from the lineage of the 1838 Lemp Brewery, it even got a Shakespearean makeover in 1903, donning the moniker Falstaff after the jolly character Sir John Falstaff. By the swingin' 60s, Falstaff wasn't just any brew, it was the bronze medalist in the American Brewing Olympics, proudly holding the title of the third largest brewer in the land. They were churning out barrels like there was no tomorrow, hitting a frothy peak in 1965 with over 7 million barrels brewed. A frothy peak that unfortunately slid down a slippery slope. Fast forward a decade, and Falstaff found itself on a bitter decline, with production plummeting by a jaw-dropping 70%. What happened, you ask? It turns out, even in the beer kingdom, size does matter. Falstaff found itself in a heavyweight showdown with the big boys of the beer world, struggling to duke it out with the larger, more sought-after brands. Adaptability wasn't their strong suit. Changing tastes and trends left them drowning in a sea of sameness, devoid devoid of innovative bubbles or fresh brews to tantalize the masses. Management mishaps and a severe lack of marketing and advertising efforts only made things worse. As sales took a steady nosedive, Falstaff ultimately succumbed to its competition.
Beer's actually rather nice.
Brown Derby.
Derby day.
Picture the beer scene of the 1930s, a post-prohibition era where beer aficionados were raising their glasses to the return of their favorite libations. Enter Brown Derby, a brew made exclusively for Safeway. It emerged from the California brewing scene, boasting a name and logo that tipped its hat to the famed Brown Derby restaurants. However, the restaurant owners weren't exactly thrilled about sharing their identity, leading to a packaging makeover, while still allowing the beer to retain its distinctive moniker. The beer itself had a bit of a nomadic journey, hopping from brewery to brewery while remaining a steadfast Safeway favorite until the late 1980s. Fast forward to 1988, a pivotal year that saw the tides change for Brown Derby. With the sale of many Safeway stores to grocery rival Vons, the new owners weren't too keen on keeping their own generic beer brand. Although some West Coast Safeway stores continued selling Brown Derby for a bit longer, this once iconic store brand beer vanished over the past few decades.
Is that a beer?
Henry Weinhard's Private Reserve.
I want 4 beers. No.
4-1 out for the OG craft beer pioneer that set the hops rolling in Portland nearly half a century ago, Henry Weinhard's Private Reserve. Weinhard himself started making beer in Portland in 1856, when the city itself was just 5 years old, and Henry Weinhard's Private Reserve was first brewed locally as a tribute to him in 1975. And it was in that year that Henry Weinhard's Private Reserve hit the taps, brewed locally as a tribute to the beer pioneer himself. Henry's became the beer that paved the way for the craft beer revolution that swept through the city a few decades later. But alas, even the most iconic beers have an expiration date. In 1979, the Weinhard Brewery changed hands, playing a tipsy game of brewery hot potato, eventually landing in the grasp of Molson Coors. Henry Weinhard's Private Reserve, once the pride and joy of every Northwest beer aficionado, saw its last call in 2021. Molson Coors decided to bid adieu to this craft beer trailblazer as part of their grand plan to streamline their product lineup.
Ew, that tastes horrible.
Bud Dry.
Why ask why? Try Bud Dry.
Bud Dry emerged from the brew kettles of Budweiser as a bold experiment in the realm of light lagers. Introduced nationally in the U.S. back in April 1990, this innovative concoction was a fusion of various light lagers, aiming to unveil flavors previously untasted by the company's loyal fans. Marketed with the catchy slogan, "Why ask why? Try Bud Dry," it initially garnered attention and even found success in test markets. With the surge in popularity of light lager beers during that era, Bud Dry seemed poised for greatness. However, its reign was short-lived. In the mid-90s, a new contender emerged on the scene, Bud Ice. This fresh-faced product boasted fun flavors that appealed to younger drinkers, ultimately overshadowing Bud Dry's appeal. As the spotlight shifted, Bud Dry gradually faded from the mainstream beer scene, quietly disappearing from shelves in December 2010.
Hey, you guys want to see something? Grab a beer and follow me.
First time here? Well, become an official BabbleTopper by taking a quick second to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out. Thanks. Now, let's get back to more once popular beers that went flat. Magnum.
Malt liquor?
Malt liquor, with its higher alcohol content compared to standard adjunct lagers, has long been a staple in the American beer landscape, offering a punchier option for those seeking a bit more bang for their buck. Magnum, a malt liquor produced by Miller, once graced the shelves as a modest contender in this potent category. With its simple, sweet flavor, it carved out a niche for itself as a reliable and affordable option among malt liquor aficionados. However, despite its modest popularity, Magnum found itself on the chopping block in 2021 as part of a broader restructuring effort by Molson Coors. Alongside 10 other brews, Magnum met its demise, bidding farewell to the shelves and leaving behind a legacy of affordable indulgence.
Tastes good, too.
Billy Beer.
Billy beer.
The brainchild of Fall City Brewery in Louisville, Kentucky, Billy Beer emerged onto the scene in 1977 amidst a wave of excitement and curiosity. Named after the colorful real-life character Billy Carter, brother to President Jimmy Carter, this brew was more than just a beverage. It was a bold attempt to revive a struggling brewery on the brink of collapse. Fall City Brewery, facing financial turmoil, saw an opportunity to breathe new life into its operations by enlisting Billy Carter as the face of their new creation. With his affable persona and down-to-earth charm, Billy lent his name and endorsement to Billy Beer, sparking intrigue among consumers nationwide. Adorned with Billy's signature and a quote praising its flavor, the cans flew off the shelves, driven by a mix of genuine interest and novelty. However, despite the initial hype surrounding Billy Beer, its success was short-lived. Billy's unpredictable behavior and candid remarks about the brew, including admitting he wasn't a huge fan himself, tarnished its image and undermined its credibility. Despite consumers initially flocking to try it out of curiosity, the beer failed to maintain its momentum, ultimately unable to rescue Fall City Brewery from its financial woes.
Billy Carter's ghost?
Miller Genuine Draft 64 Lemonade.
That's an adult beverage right there.
In the early 2000s, low-carb beers were all the rage. Everyone was on the quest for a brew that's light on the waistline but heavy on flavor. Miller's attempt to break the flavorless trend was a lemonade-infused spin on their MGD 64. The summer of 2011 saw the grand entrance of this lemon-infused brew, aiming to capture the taste buds of those seeking a low-carb, light alternative with a citrusy kick. But as the sweltering days of July rolled by, so did the fate of the MGD 64 lemonade. It sank faster than a lead balloon. Drinkers were unimpressed by its artificial lemon flavor that tasted more like candy than actual lemonade. Miller had high hopes, hoping to emulate the success of Leinenkugel's crowd-pleasing Summer Shandy, another lemony delight under the Miller brand umbrella. However, despite their best efforts, MGD 64 lemonade failed to gain the traction they'd envisioned. Plans to tweak the formula were swiftly abandoned, and the beer was unceremoniously booted off the shelves. Word has it that Miller was so eager to bid farewell to the Lemonade 64 that they brought up every last drop lingering in the warehouses and, well, made it disappear. The specifics of the lemonade's fate remain a mystery, leaving beer enthusiasts to wonder if somewhere out there in a secret stash, the ghost of MGD 64 lemonade still whispers the tale of its brief, bubbly existence.
What is this? Careful!
Jack's.
What about another beer?
Back in the 1940s, when craft aficionados were reaching for cases or kegs, Jack's emerged as the go-to choice for the moderate beer drinker. This trailblazer of suds wasn't just any brew, it was a southern sweetheart that claimed the honor of being the first to introduce the iconic six-pack concept back in the 40s. Born in Jacksonville, Florida in 1913, Jack's had its brewing roots deeply embedded in the Sunshine State until 1956. With a brief hiatus during the Prohibition era, naturally. Later, it took a beer-fueled journey to New Orleans, merging with another Jack's brewed by the Jackson Brewing Company. The 60s witnessed Jack's hitting its popularity peak, becoming a Southern favorite. However, the taps ran dry in 1974 when the brewery closed its doors, leaving behind the echoes of a once iconic brew. But fear not, for Jack's found a savior in the form of the Pearl Brewing Company, which took up the brewing mantle until 1984. Fast forward to the turn of the millennium, and Pearl Brewery, including Jack's, found itself part of the Pabst family. While Pearl's flagship beer made a local comeback, Jack's remained MIA, lost in the beer archives and presumed to have vanished into the frothy ether.
I'm gonna buy you a beer, okay? And we can forget this whole little incident ever happened.
National Bohemian Crab Shack Shandy.
Yeah, Crab Shack sounds perfect.
This brew is a lemon-flavored beer that unfortunately couldn't weather the storms of changing tastes. Despite its name conjuring visions of Old Bay-drenched refreshment, Crab Shack Shandy missed the seasoning memo, steering clear of the iconic Chesapeake Bay flavor. A bit of a missed opportunity there, considering National Bohemian's hometown ties to Baltimore, where it proudly wears the crown as the city's beer, present and eternal. Now, let's talk flavor. Crab Shack Shandy Shandy opted for the tried-and-true Shandy profile, blending citrus zest with the classic multi-beer goodness, as per the brewer's grand plan. While the description painted a picture of refreshing delight, beer advocate users weren't quite as charmed. Some likened it to country time lemonade, while others bemoaned the absence of crab or Old Bay kick, leaving it to settle in the realm of a so-so shandy. As for the demise of this natty bow seasonal, the jury's still out. Introduced in the spring of 2018 and making a summer comeback in 2019, Crab Shack Shandy faced its final curtain call in the following year. With supply issues, product shortages, and the chaos that defined the 2020s, it seems Crab Shack Shandy joined the ranks of casualties of our post-pandemic world.
I hate this.
Red, white, and blue.
Fireworks! Red, white, blue!
Step into the heartland of the Midwest, where the 4th of July celebrations once found their perfect match in the form of the patriotically named red, white, and blue beer. This easy-drinking beer wasn't just a beer, it was a picnic companion, the kind that effortlessly paired with fried chicken and potato salad. Plus, it had the added bonus of being budget-friendly, ensuring your wallet didn't take a Liberty Bell-sized hit when snagging a case or two. Talk about the all-American brew. In a tale as old as time, well, 1899 to be precise, Red, White, and Blue burst onto the scene, making its debut on the grand stage of Independence Day, a star-spangled beer born for the celebration of freedom and frothy libations. The exact demise of Red, White, and Blue remains a mystery lost to the hangover of time. What we do know is that it lingered in the beer scene until at least the 1990s, earning its stripes as the preferred brew for the daring naked beer slides at a Milwaukee bar frequented by Marquette students. Now that's a unique claim to fame. Fast forward to 2018, and Red, White, and Blue experienced a resurrection courtesy of the Pabst Milwaukee Brewery and Tap Room. The amber nectar once again flowed, but this encore was short-lived. The tap room's closure in 2020 marked the final chapter in the saga of Red, White, and Blue.
Want beer? Like beer. Beer good.
Michelob Ultra Fruit-Infused.
My God, America is imploding.
In the early 2000s, with wine coolers fading into the background and hard seltzers yet to make their splash, Michelob seized the opportunity to inject some fruity flair into the beer scene with its Ultra Fruit-Infused line. Making its debut in 2007, this innovative series offered a refreshing twist on the classic light beer, featuring lime cactus, pomegranate raspberry, and Tuscan orange grapefruit. These flavors were followed by dragon fruit peach in 2010. While companies often trumpet the arrival of new products, the silent departure of others is a less publicized affair. Such was the fate of Tuscan orange grapefruit and dragon fruit peach, quietly disappearing from shelves without fanfare or explanation. Lime cactus, now rebranded as lime and prickly pear cactus, managed to stand the test of time. Meanwhile, pomegranate underwent a transformation, bidding farewell to raspberry in favor of agave. Despite this flavor evolution, it seems Michelob's website has relegated this revamped concoction to the shadows, bundling it into variety packs alongside the classic non-flavored Ultra known as Pure Gold.
So, as you can see, sales are going very well.
Old style cooler by the lake.
So how about it? Beers on the beach after work?
Making a splash in the summer of 2018, Old Style Cooler by the Lake joined the ranks of Radler-style beers with its refreshing blend of beer and lemonade. The name itself, a nod to the cooler temperatures typically found along the lake shores of the Great Lakes region, evoked images of lazy summer days spent by the water's edge. Packaged in a can boasting a retro-inspired design, Cooler by the Lake exuded a sense of laid-back charm that resonated with fans of old-style beer. True to its Radler roots, Cooler by the Lake delivered a balanced mix of beer and citrus, primarily lemonade with subtle hints of other citrus fruits. Its flavor profile leaned more towards sweetness than tartness, making it the perfect drink for a sweltering summer afternoon. However, despite its promising debut, Cooler by the Lake found itself facing stiff competition in the Midwest beer market, particularly from the similar-tasting Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy. With the region already saturated with similar offerings, Cooler by the Lake struggled to carve out its niche. After gracing shelves for 2 summers, its presence dwindled, eventually fading away during the upheaval of the events of 2020.
Want beer.
Olympia.
You finally earned this nice cold beer.
The storied legacy of Olympia traces back to the tranquil landscapes of Tumwater, Washington, nestled near the capital city of Olympia. With the slogan, "It's the water," Olympia beer captivated drinkers with its promise of pure refreshment sourced from the pristine waters of artesian wells. Initially, Olympia garnered immense popularity as a beloved regional brand in the Pacific Northwest, establishing itself as a staple in the beer drinking culture for over 5 decades. Its acclaim eventually transcended regional boundaries as it expanded nationwide, undergoing a rebranding to position itself as a budget-friendly lager. However, the winds of change blew harshly in the 1980s and 1990s as Olympia Brewing Company underwent a series of acquisitions, ultimately falling under the umbrella of Pabst, which itself was bought by Miller. Despite its enduring history and loyal fan base, Olympia faced mounting challenges, with dwindling demand signaling the end of an era. In 2021, the final chapter closed on Olympia beer as it was officially decommissioned. The shifting landscape of consumer preferences dealt a fatal blow, rendering production unsustainable. With a heavy heart, the company made the difficult decision to bid farewell to its historic brew, shifting focus to the distillation of vodka instead.
You need a liquor license to sell vodka.
Schlitz.
Schlitz?
Thank you, Arnie.
The Milwaukee-based Joseph Schlitz Brewing Company used to hold the golden scepter as America's largest brewer during the first half of the 20th century. Their flagship beer, Schlitz, dubbed the beer that made Milwaukee famous, was an iconic American-style lager that captured the hearts and taste buds of beer enthusiasts far and wide. But alas, the downfall of this once mighty brew was akin to a tragic Shakespearean saga. A series of fateful business decisions, including a cringe-worthy ad campaign dubbed the "Drink Schlitz or I'll Kill You" campaign, precipitated the unraveling of America's biggest beer brand. It became known as the infamous Schlitz mistake. By the late 1950s, Schlitz conceded its throne to another American beer behemoth, Anheuser-Busch, signaling a shift in the beer kingdom. Although it remained the nation's second-largest brewery, its descent in rank hinted at darker days ahead. In the tumultuous 70s, trying to cope with surging demand and cost pressures, Schlitz's owners embarked on a risky journey to cut production corners. Enter the era of accelerated batch fermentation, a process aimed at speeding up production, accompanied by the replacement of malted barley with the cheaper corn syrup.
My king, this corn syrup was just delivered.
To top it off, they threw in some silica gel experiments to prevent haze when chilled. Yeah, they were doing some wild brewing experiments back then. The once proud slogan of being the most carefully brewed beer in the world lost its fizz. Sales tumbled as customers, disappointed by the changes, began returning cases of beer faster than you could say brewing blunder. The ultimate facepalm moment came in 1976 when Schlitz had to recall over 10 million cans and bottles of beer, taking a whopping $1.4 million hit in losses, which today would be around 7.5 million big ones. And alas, while Schlitz still exists, now under the Pabst Brewing banner, it never quite reclaimed its former frothy glory.
Well, beer, we've had some great times.
Thirsty for more? Then go ahead and check out another great video. Just tap or click to keep watching.